Good morning, everyone. It is a real pleasure to welcome you today in this Decide webinar, which is a sort of special edition for International Women's Day. My name is Silvia Salini. I'm officer at the Sustainable Resources, Climate and Resilient team at ICLE Europe, and I will be the one accompanying you together with my colleague Marta in what I promise it will be a very interesting conversation to explore a little bit the role of women in the energy transition and the energy sector in general. To us, the best way to celebrate these days was to really sparkle a discussion on what is the existing gender inequalities in energy sector, what are the concrete consequences of those inequalities, but also how to be inspired and fill those gaps that are still existing. To tackle climate change, Europe set very ambitious targets. They committed to reduce CO2 emission by 55% by 2030 and to become climate neutral by 2050. Of course, energy transition plays a key role in reaching those targets. And this is why we have been observing a lot of movements in this space in the last few years, including the possibility for citizens to become active in the energy market, teaming up in what is so-called energy communities. Now, the question is it this opportunity really open to everyone? In many of the new policy proposals that we have been observing in the last years, one of the key principles that is always included is the one of inclusiveness. So not let anyone behind. Probably when we hear this phrase, what we think is more about low-income people that might not have budget to invest in the energy, new energy solution, or we can think of those who, for social cultural reasons, have more difficult to access information and therefore to take action. And those might be, for example, migrants or elderly. And this is absolutely true. Those people and those sectors might definitely need more support. I'm not sure how many of us think about women to be included in this definition. As it is stated in a study commissioned by the European Parliament for Policy Department for Citizens' Rights and Constitutional Affairs, that have been looking into the role of women in the energy transition in a context where gender gaps exist, policies that are gender neutral de facto are gender blind. So this is something that is not only touching high-level political development, but is really concerning the day-by-day life of every one of us. This is why the objective of the today workshop is webinar, is to understand different phases of inequalities and what this implies in concrete terms. To unpack this, we have a great set of speakers with us today, but before going into action, just a few notes, housekeeping rules. So as you have seen, this workshop is recorded and will be uploaded on the Decide website. So if you don't want to show up in the recording, you can just keep your camera off. We are absolutely keen to have you as part of the discussion, so be ready to engage, and you can do that by typing your question in the chat box. My colleague and myself will try to do our best to pick those up and include in the conversation together with the speakers of today. And if you wish to speak, you can also raise your hand and we will be more than happy to unmute you and give you the possibility to give your points also. A quick look into the agenda of today. I'm shortly going to include my colleague Marta Veronesi in the discussion to hear what Decide is and how gender is included in the activity of the project. And then we have Mr. Ioannis Konstas from Q-Plan, who is also the coordinator of W4RES project, that is going to speak a little bit about what the project have been investigating and how they have been looking looking into women engagement in the energy sector. And then my colleague, Alice Daniela Torres, that is engaged in the Power Pool project, having a bit of a zoom in on energy poverty and how this and why this is very close to women and gender issues. Then we will have a short Q&A before we move to the next set of contribution. I have with us today, we have our colleague Mona Bieling from the University of Schloss-Sieburg, and unfortunately the colleague Sonja Klinger is not with us today due to COVID reasons. But of course she has been contributing to the preparation of the contribution, and they will tell us what the site in specific have been investigating in terms of engagement drivers, barriers, but we are also looking in how to overcome those, of course. And then we have a very nice example from Alice Corovesi from WinCop of what is actually possible to do. And this will be the end of the first part after the open discussion where we really want to have you engaged. So with no further ado, time is very short, and I'm inviting Marta Veronesi, who is officer at the Finki and coordinator of the Decide project, to tell us a little bit more what is Decide and how the gender aspect is included in this work.
Thank you, Sylvia. Good morning, everyone. Thanks to being here with us for this really, really interesting discussion. So let's start with presenting you the site. So the site is an European project under Horizon 2020, counting 14 international partners from all over Europe. It started in June 2020, and now we are currently halfway of the project. The site stands for Developing Energy Communities Through Informative and Collective Action, and aims to gain a better understanding of how energy communities and collective action are established and managed from social, regulatory, and also business aspects. The projects help local energy communities and its members by creating a benefit from them. The site has 7 pilots in 70 European countries and 11 replicants called deciders, and we aim to increase their number by the end of the project. The site project does not focus directly on engaging women on the energy transition, but pay a lot of attention on inclusivity in a broad sense. Nevertheless, I'm happy here to report actually that around the 70% of people involved and engaged in the site are actually women. This is a remarkable and above the average. In the site, we have, let's see, several ongoing activities to support inclusivity in this energy transition. This means that we pay attention also to the women's point of view. In fact, we are hosting a podcast on exploring minority groups going through the energy transition, and we already interviewed 2 women. One is Shakira Van Steen on the energy transition and inclusivity of different group in Den Haag, in the Netherlands, and Katera Samahal from the city of Antwerp, and about the energy transition specifically in Afghan community. Then another aspect we are trying to tackle in the site is to support the energy community to survive and grow in a renewable energy sector. We do this through 18 initiatives by building different business models for energy communities and collective action. And among this community, we're trying to value also the role of women, considering that for an historical reason, they have been mostly excluded by a leading role in this sector. In fact, I want to say that the energy communities are entities relatively recent, which required a lot of years of expertise to be founded and carry on. This was found mostly in white middle-aged male, since the energy sector was mostly dominated by them in the past. But thanks to this new business model, we try also to engage with women who would like to start an energy communities, as well as assess the role and prevalence of women in these initiatives. Then, last but not least, we develop also an interactive board game called The Power of Community to teach and introduce kids and young people on what energy communities are in a really fun way. This game gives us also the opportunity to work on two different aspects. First, no difference is made on the gender of kids, whether they are the women and the men of the future, of course. And second, engage with the caregivers, like mothers, also father, and teachers and others that pay attention on the kids and will play the game with them. But I have to say that these caregivers are mostly women still in most countries. And by doing so, we empower the role of these women in the domestic energy management towards the energy community buildings. So, although the side project does not specifically address the role of women in the energy transition, we concentrate on inclusivity, which automatically accounts also for women. So this is a bit in a nutshell, the side project, and I will be really happy to share with you all the relevant links to the platform that I presented here, like the podcast and the game in the chat, while my colleagues will introduce the other projects and the other relevant initiatives. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Marta. I think that is really interesting to see how these aspects have been, let's say, included in and addressed in a very different manner. So there is the more communicative aspect of the podcast, and there is the more like business-oriented aspect, but also the fun part, which is really interesting.
Exactly.
And thank you so much. I think that is very important what you mentioned, that is not just a specific focus, but rather something that is crossing all the activities of the project. And I think this is probably one thing that is already a learning from all of us. While the links to the elements that have been mentioned will be shared in the chat so that everyone could have a look at it, it's my pleasure to have the first, let's say, contributors that is participating from another project. The W4RES project is a Johannes Constance who's coordinate this project. That is going to tell us a little bit more what are the observation that I've made and how are women engaged in the energy transition, if they are.
Hello everyone. Very nice to be part of this excellent event on a very special day, I think, for all the people that are involved in gender issues. I'm very happy to present a few of our findings of the W4S project. Sylvia, if you'd be so kind to share the presentation. Being part of the world that is living, being a white, male, and middle-aged, I have to say that unfortunately we have to play a role in this energy transition and this change of a paradigm in terms of female participation, meaning that female participation is not a women's only issue. It's an issue that males should be also engaged and realize their negative or positive contribution can make a big change to how the setup is. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes, fantastic. W4S is exactly stemming from the concept that women, the potential of women, can make a huge change in the renewable energy heating and cooling sector, meaning that we are tapping on the potential larger female participation and upgrading of their role in renewable heating and cooling entities can help the dissemination of these technologies and accelerate the energy transition process. Last year, next slide, please, we did 2 big surveys, and I'll present very briefly because I only have 5 minutes, a few of the main things, and I will highlight essentially what I said already, that, you know, it is indeed a huge issue, the gender in the energy transition, but it's not an issue that should be engaging only women. Men as well should be participating in these activities, realizing the pitfalls and the mistakes of the past, and try to turn around the situation that will be mutually beneficial for everybody. The old world was, well, that it was not inclusive enough, and this was bad for everyone, even for white male middle-aged men like me, in the sense that they were missing out on important parts of their life, and also focusing on strictly profit-based approaches. This will not produce a better world for everyone. And we see here that there is, in the first slide, there is a difference of realization of what is the situation in the field, where male respondents react to the agreement in the statement that women participate as much as men in the renewable heating sector. Men think that there are much more women than actual they are, and the female shows that they have different perception, and this is very interesting. Also, there are different perceptions depending on the country. It might be there is a correlation between the development of the sector and the gender, the participation in the particular countries. Next slide, please. Well, it's still the action and the realization, if there is enough participation of women in both the public and the private sector, there is still, this is something that is both men and women agree. However, it's obvious again in most of the cases that women find it to be lacking, the participation is lacking much more than the men. And there is a difference again between countries and in the south or in the north, in the east or in Central Europe. Next slide. Well, one of the things that we find out that there is still stereotypes playing a major role in hiring practices, and this is really important to underline, and this is really important to try to see. And we're talking about the renewable and heating and cooling sector, so it's there. It's not something that it's in theory that happens in other sectors. We have found it that in our survey that this is something that is actually occurring. Next slide. Well, and this is one of the major things that we realize, and this is one of the things that we really will have to face, that the female participation is not enough in females as entrepreneurs, in females as business, females as movers and makers. And this is really important to highlight and to address properly. And we understand that there was a link between life and work and life balance, and depending on the country, the apparatus of support for females were different, and also the approaches in the relationships of these women with their partners made a huge difference. And this is something that we have also to address. Next slide. Well, I want to wrap it up. I will try to be very brief, to give you just hints and pointers of what is the situation through our research. We have to say these things, and what we're trying to do in W4S is through a mixture of awareness raising, capacity building, business support to RHC projects and initiatives. We try to change the situation, and we think, and this is the quote and the message from our side, it has to be truly transformative energy and the energy sector must be linked with an agenda that challenges all stereotypes of existing stereotypes of women, and be aggressive in the advancement of their rights, their dignity, their visibility, really, really important in the various roles as consumers, producers, investors, experts, and essentially agents of change. Last slide. If you want to know more, apologies for the choice of the color on the left side of the photo. I'll tell you, join us, check the W4S website, the W4S Observatory, where we have various tools that you may find interesting. Also, you can register to our newsletter and try to attend one of the events that will be happening in the coming months. So thank you. I will be available for questions and discussions. I try to be very brief and try to excite a bit the discussion by referring to my gender, age, and color of skin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yannis. I think it was a perfect warm-up for the discussion. Indeed, you've been providing some very interesting data. And thank you for pointing out that this is not just a female problem, but men are affected and should be included in this discussion in order to change things. And also for mentioning that, of course, it's not about just counting how many women are included, but to also look in which position and which roles those women cover. And this is indeed something that we are going to deepen in very shortly in the discussion. I see that there are in the meantime requests for other countries to be included in your next round of surveys. So we hope to have those data also, including a broader panel. But now I will quickly move to this our second contribution from Alice Daniela Torres, who is Senior Officer at ICLEI Europe and is working on the Power Pool project, to give us a little bit more insight on what energy pool is and why does it affect, how it relates to gender.
Hi, hello everybody. Can you see my screen now, Sylvie? Can you confirm? Perfect. So thank you very much. I think that after Yannis, yeah, I can go after this warm up. I think that I'm going to touch about an issue that it affects us all, which is energy poverty. And of course, during the last few months, we have heard about the increasing cost of energy costs. So the increasing levels of energy costs. So this is affecting everyone, and of course, women also is being affected by this tendency right now. So of course I'm going to show you a little the experience of the Power Pool project. It's an Horizon Europe project, also focused on reducing and alleviating energy poverty. And yes, we are a project with several partners. I will explain later, but I think that the first question to situate a little us in the context of how energy poverty is affecting women, I think that we have to go to the current state of art and the current research that is ongoing on women. And in fact, when I was preparing the presentation, I found that there's a lot of qualitative information. There's a lot of issues already published and a lot of information. But when I was trying to look some numbers about how much women effectively is affected by energy poverty, it was a little challenging to find that. So we have to understand the problem of energy poverty from a three-side perspective. This is something that is being addressed by several research organizations. So on the one hand, we have, of course, the economic dimension that, of course, women with low incomes are disproportionately found as head of household. So if a woman is a head of household and has an income gap or a pension gap, of course, the management of energy is going to be a challenge for them. No? So this is very important to know that in Europe and across the world, so the economic status of the economic level of affecting different households is also reflected on the effort that women has to do in order to address energy poverty episodes. No, if they have to, how can I say, decide into eating or heating, you have to make some decisions that are challenging for them. No, then when we are talking about the sociocultural environment, of course, depending on the environment, the location, and the cultural status, women's energy needs and consumption patterns differ. For example, if women is in charge of dependent family members, they have to take care of the elderly, of the children. They have to also manage the energy to give them a warm or cool place. And sometimes also women are not fully in charge of the decision-making processes in their household. Sometimes the decision processes is limited. So this really affects and could impact their energy poverty response, and they can be affected more. And then we have the physiological component. Know that, believe it or not, science says that some women are most sensitive to ambient temperature than men, and this is a fact. And this is not that because we are women we are more sensitive, it's because it's a fact. Also, women live longer than men. So of course, this makes women more, how can I say, they have more time to face different energy poverty episodes in their lives. So it's very important to know that. And then also I found a very interesting research about poor mental health that has been done in the city of Barcelona. And it says that poor mental health is 1 times more strong in women that are facing energy poverty than the ones that are not facing energy poverty. So these are some numbers that really, when we were preparing this presentation, we were like thinking, how is it possible? So we have this context of how energy poverty is affecting women, and I think that now we have to think positively on how to address these issues and empower women to fight energy poverty. And that is where our Powerful Project wants to give a contribution to this project. So we are a project that aims to empower citizens, including women, to fight energy poverty through joint energy initiatives. We are talking here about energy communities, energy cooperatives. So this is one of the tools that we are promoting in our project. We are 14 partners in 11 countries. We are a super diverse project, which I found very interesting. We are located in several countries in Europe, and we are doing work in the field. And this is very important for you to know, because we have an approach to do a lot of work in the field, in the neighborhood. So in the beginning, we have decided a powerful toolkit, that's how we call it. We have designed several digital tools to help citizens to address energy poverty. I can give you one example. We have created an application where households could fill some information, and then they can understand if they are facing energy poverty issues or not. Sometimes some people do not know if they are facing energy poverty episodes, so we are helping them. We have created some training materials, and then we are going to the next step, which is creating a network of energy supporters and mentors, okay, where we are training, we are giving a certificate. So we are making people specialized in enhancing action towards fighting energy poverty. We are also starting to work on building and establishing local energy poverty offices in the different countries we operate, to give information and advice to citizens, including women, on how can they fight energy poverty. And of course, we have this policy component of development guidelines of how to really mainstream energy poverty in the planning processes on a city and country level. So we really do work in the field, and in fact, we've been thinking and reflecting a lot, how can we embed the women aspect in our project, and we see it from three perspectives. First of all, when we talk about energy supporters and mentors in the networks, of course, we would like to have more women as energy supporters and mentors. So the good news is that so far our network of energy supporters and mentors is, depending on the country, we have from 37 to 65% of women participation in the certification process. And of course, we would like to have these numbers kind of equal, at least 50-50. Who knows that we can do it more. And of course, we would like to encourage women to participate in the energy supporters and mentors program. Of course, when we talk about the tools, we would like to focus also more on how women can use the tools when we do the household visits. Okay, if we visit a household, how can we identify how women are approaching the use of the tool? This is something that we are going to start and think about in the following engagement cycles that we are doing. And of course, start to understanding deeply what is the role of women in the energy poverty action on a local level. And of course, empowering after identifying who can be a beneficiary of the tools and use our materials. We would like to have more women in participating in energy poverty offices, and of course in the energy communities part. So I think that this is a context of what we are doing in our project. Of course, then we can listen other examples, but of course, just to let you know that this is a process. I mean, the gender issue, when we designed the process, we didn't thought as carefully as now. So I think that you have made us a thanks also for the side project to invite us also to reflect on how important is the gender dimension in our project. Just to finalize, I also, when I was researching, I found this quote from the Power for All initiative. So they mentioned that women hold tremendous untapped potential to expand the adoption of energy solutions around the world as change makers, entrepreneurs, trainers, and managers. So I love this when I saw it. So I think that this is one of the messages that is important also for us to reflect. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much. And I think that this is kind of echoing what Yannis was also saying. And it's interesting to see how recurrent is this idea of having women as an agent of change, as something that can really make the difference, especially now where this difference is very much needed. I take just one moment. I see that we have a few questions in the chat, and I would just pick one of those before we move to the next contribution. I would then address Yannis with a question that comes from Annette Davids that was complimenting about the research, and she is asking whether you had a look to the correlation that perception of women and in the perception of women in the technical sector. Of course, we are speaking about energy in this case, and in your project it was heating and cooling, so quite specific, but I think it's not too daring to say that this is also reflecting a major problem. So have you been comparing this to a broader scope?
Well, I'm not sure I understood the question, but I can tell you two facts for that coming out of our survey. The one thing is that in the RHC sector, which is I believe quite similar with the red sector overall, female participation usually is overrepresented in the non-technical parts of the industry. We have people, women working in marketing, working in HR, but they do not have, usually are underrepresented in engineering position, let's say. And also that is what is really, really important. They are underrepresented in decision making positions, and this is a huge issue. Only recently a survey in Greece showed that even in energy communities that tend to be a bit more progressive, more open, more inclusive than other kinds of entities in the energy sector, in energy communities in Greece, 93% of energy communities have less than 2 women members of their governing boards. Less than 2, 93%. I mean, this is really an alarm. Energy communities want a lot of food soldiers. Probably they have more participation of women as members, but not in decision-making positions. And this is really, really worrying because as you understand, we have the business as usual approach, even in this part. Better, improved, but not as good. And now one remark, which is I cannot provide you quantitative data about it, but it's my sense out of the interviews and discussions that people, because we have the quantitative survey, but also we have a series of interviews. My feeling is that there is a generational gap there. When we speak to both male and female of a larger, let's say, age, it appears the approach is quite old-fashioned. Where you speak with younger generations, both male and female, the approach is far better. Stereotypes recede, an approach that we don't, even answers like, I don't understand why you ask me about the choice of women in STEM education. I mean, why? At the uni, I had colleagues that were fantastic. They were female I don't understand why you say things like that. And women, young women saying, look, in my field, my colleagues, my young colleagues, same, let's say, years at the university, no problem. So there is a generation, but this is more, I cannot provide quantified data about it. I hope I covered a bit the question.
Well, thank you so much. And I think that the data that you've been presenting are quite impressive. Thank you for nevertheless ending with the positive note that hopefully new generation are kind of slowly overcoming this. And we hope that also the new legal framework, as for example, the introduction of energy community, will push this, although it seems that we are not quite there yet. And this links with another comment that I see in the chat from Patricia, who is pointing out the difficulties related to the fact that there are no data available, which is what Daniela was saying. Since there are not the investigation from the gender perspective of those issues, it's very difficult to look into how much this is actually a problem, a concrete problem, how much it affects individuals. So maybe Daniela, to you, since you have been mentioning that in PowerPool you are developing such a wonderful set of tools and trainings, and I was just wondering, now that this gender element has been raised and you are starting considering, are you maybe thinking to have some gender-specific training or gender-specific features in the tool, or something that is really like designed in order to make this fitting for women? Do you see it possible?
Yes, of course, we all see possible, and I think that we are in the moment of the project that we still can do some changes and some adjustments. And I think, but anyway, I can tell that in the project we have, as I said, we have a wonderful group of partners where the gender issue has been included since the beginning. Probably not with a how can I say, a super big component as part of the project results, because we go more from a integrated perspective, okay, and gender is one of the issues, but we've been working on it. But I think that that there are always opportunities to improve, and I think that now, because we are in the moment of the project, now that we are going to the field more this time, we are starting the second engagement cycle, so we are going now more to the field, we are going to do more households visits, so this is going to help us to understand better what is the how energy poverty is affecting women, and we are going to see it in the roots, we are going to see it on the household levels, and I think that we have to be prepared for that. We are just in the process of starting the second cycle, and then we have a third cycle, and I think that there's a lot of possibilities for improvement. But going back to the data part, I think that it's important to know that the current information that we have is mainly on a national or European level, but when we try to find data on vulnerable communities and vulnerable women in the women's sphere, there's very few information, even on a city level where ICLEI as we work, and there's very few information. So we really have to go to the field to lift this information. If no, it's going to be very difficult to act. We can have a lot of policies, we can have a lot of laws, regulation, workshops and everything, but if we don't know what is really going on in the field and the household level, is very difficult. We think that is very difficult to advance. But in our PowerPool project, we are going to the field, and that is where we are going to make the change that is expected.
Well, thank you so much, and it's great to see that this component can still be included, and indeed kind of trying in the to the possible extent to fill this data gap, at least for the country that you are working on. We'll be definitely happy to keep update on that. But this positive notes, it's a nice prompt to pass over to the next part of contribution, where we have my colleague Mona, that is going to present and introduce a little bit what I've been doing the site so far in terms of engagement and engagement in the energy transition, and which data can be referred to women and gender gap in general.
Yes, thanks a lot, Sylvia. I think you can directly hop into the next slide. We tried a bit to go that way, first analyzing, okay, where's the struggle in engaging women, and then coming to the point, how can we overcome the struggles? So the things I'm referring to are very much concentrated on energy communities, energy collective actions, and cooperatives. So basically the groups that are meant to be very inclusive are meant to be very from the bottom up. And we still see, and that's coming to my first point, what Johannes already mentioned as well, is that even in these communities, women are highly underrepresented, right? So the figure that Johannes was talking about, but I also found a study from Hanke and colleagues from last year, actually, so very recently, where within 700 energy communities within Germany, 83% of the project boards are entirely occupied by male community members. And I think that is already one of the biggest struggles that we're actually facing in engaging more women to the energy community, because as we all know, representation matters. So social identity or identification with the community is one of the biggest motivators for people to join such a community. And in the moment where the community is represented mostly by men, then it could be much harder, or it probably is much harder for women to identify with this community and actually get engaged with them. So that is one big struggle that women are facing. Also, we found in literature that there are like assumptions about having specific skills that are needed to join an energy community. And it shows, and it's actually also shown in the figures that Johannes showed, that women tend to also often underestimate their, for example, climate change knowledge. They underestimate it to a greater degree than men do. So that could be also a big barrier when women are assuming that the skills they need to enter such a community to become a part of an energy transition are missing. Then of course they are much more hindered to actually join, because feeling a sense of self-efficacy, so feeling that they can really contribute to it, could be a bit less. Although it's just an assumption, right? It's just the way that women also perceive their own skills. And that is a bit related to the next point that I'm making about the stereotypes. So in interviews that have been done in Danish households, there was a study by Stendhal and colleagues. It was shown that often the energy technology, energy in the household is something that is perceived as a masculine domain, right? There are still stereotypes like existing that men do take care of the energy technology of the house, which of course makes it harder for women to get engaged if that kind of like piece of the household is addressed. But I mean, that's a stereotype view, and we see changes, as Johannes said, we see generational changes, but also changes in the older generations, but it's still, of course, a barrier still existing. And the last point I'm going to make about the barriers is the priorities. We often see that energy communities that are founded, that are new, they are facing so many barriers, right? They're facing legal struggles, they're facing struggles to get people engaged, to find their business model. So putting diversity as one goal is really often not top of the list. It's not the highest priority of the communities when they start. And I think that's an issue. And so far that it's then something that is, you know, postponed until later. So it's more about, okay, we can tackle the diversity issue at a later stage. We're first trying to get on. And I think that's a huge barrier, because if it's not top of the list and it's not really something that is addressed right from the beginning, it's obviously getting harder, because as I said, the social identification is of course lower for women if much more male persons are represented in the energy community. But yes, coming to the next slide, there are of course ways how to overcome this, right? So the first would of course be building a female network and also using the sense of social identity to increase women participation in energy communities by, for example, increasing the amount of women in energy community boards or cooperative boards, like having really women also represent these communities, and so other women feel engaged or feel represented by these communities and also feel more identification with them and feel maybe also the social norm, right? That women are being part of such communities and such cooperatives. Then there's the flexibility aspect. That's just something, I'm going very quickly through, because I think it's not only addressing women, but rather also, of course, men, as we know that like also is changing, that more men are also taking like childcare and other care. It's just that for everyone, let's say for everyone, it's important to have low thresholds, opportunities to join such a cooperative and community. And so far that this flexibility is enabling people that are so far not having the possibility to join are now having this possibility. Then coming to the skill development part, One thing that, as I said, was found in the literature, that often it is assumed that certain skills are necessary to become part of such a cooperative or community. But in fact, it's found that most of the skills and knowledge is built through being part of such a community, through being part of the community or a cooperative. And I think that is something that needs to be communicated much more, like focusing not on you already need such a high knowledge in energy technology to become a part, but rather being part of something like this can increase the knowledge and the skills through education, through training, through also experiencing the energy technology. So I think this is something that needs to be communicated much more towards women and towards everyone, of course, but especially towards women, as they underestimate their skills more than men do. And the last part is, I framed it as social goals. I think it's more the fact that, as I said, it's often not top priority, but then it's really getting harder in the end. And women and like energy communities are meant, and also in the legislative of the European Commission, they are meant to be an entity that also brings social benefits, brings inclusion, brings participation to all levels of society. And I think by including women, this goal is much more by being inclusive in any kind of way, not only talking about gender, but as this is specific about gender, of course, also women. The social goal is much more reach. And I think that's something that cooperatives and communities need to put on their priority list a bit more, being this inclusive and diverse, as also the European Commission is meaning it by saying that they should bring social benefits and being inclusive. So yes, to summarize, I think we already heard a lot of interesting projects, and I guess that there's still a lot to do, but I also feel positive that it's definitely developing, and that especially bottom-up approaches like communities and cooperatives have the power, if they're really interested in it, to bring more inclusivity and diversity into decision-making processes in energy policy.
Well, thank you so much, and I would invite everyone to check the great work that the colleagues from University of Seaburg and University of Mannheim have been doing in terms of researching how what really matters in order to have people engaged. And I think it's really interesting that you stress the underestimation element, because of course this is something that is really in everyone's hand, meaning that it's reflected on what anyone think about what is between the possibilities. And of course, by working on gaining a better confidence in what actually is possible for every individual is probably one of the keys that will make this change happening. And exactly about changing things, we've been heard about very striking data on energy community and how little women are engaged, especially at the board level. Yannis were presenting some data about how women are less present in the business sector, and we are happy to have here a counterpart, someone that will present one of the few examples of the opposite that is happening. So it's my pleasure to have Alice Korovesi from WinCop, that is a female energy cooperative in Greece.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you for the invitation to this very interesting event. And thank you, Daniela, for highlighting WinCop as an example. So yes, I want to thank you both. As Sylvia said, yes, I'm representing WinCop, but of course, not to forget my first position, I'm managing director of INZEB, which is a research organization in Greece, and we are supporting with various means the energy cooperative WinCop. So some facts about WinCop as an example, as you said. WinCop is an initiative of the Greek Association of Female Entrepreneurs. It's an organization with more than 1,500 female entrepreneurs as members, coming from all around Greece and having various backgrounds. Our members are handcrafters, and we have also hotel owners. So in December 2020, with the president of the Association of Female Entrepreneurs, we started a discussion, since I'm a member also of the organization, how we can be part of the energy transition. And we thought that since the legislative framework in Greece was friendly and it remains friendly for energy cooperatives, that the good idea to be part of the energy transition is to establish an energy cooperative. So we started the discussion, we start collecting data, we discussed with various and other energy cooperatives in Greece. So the decision was launched, it was approved by the board of directors of the association, and then in March 2021 we started some workshops with our members to present them the idea, to present them what an energy cooperative, what is, and what are the benefits of being part of an energy cooperative, how everybody can contribute to the energy transition journey. So these workshops took place during March and beginning of April, while the decision was made, and yes, we were moving on with our energy cooperative. So in May 2021, the statute was ready, and the signatures have started. It was a big journey for the signatures because, as I said, the members are coming from all over Greece. So signing a document physically with 60 members, it took us a lot of time. It took us approximately 2 months, but of course we managed it. September 2021, another milestone reached. So the initial capital was raised from our 61st members. It was approximately 400,000 euros, and then we started with the process of buying the land to build up our first PV plant, which is located in the north part of Greece, in Chalkidiki region. And yes, we did it in November. We bought our land, and after that we start with all the permissions that needed, environmental permissions and other permissions from the grid, of course the authorities that they are managing the grid. While in January 2022, so it was less than 1 year after the first workshops in March 2021, the construction of our first PV plant, photovoltaic plant, started with a capacity of 1 megawatt. I'm very happy to say that it's at the end of February, the construction of the first PV plant was finalized. So we are now just waiting for a final signature to be connected to the grid. This is considered to be a great achievement for Greece. I mean, having a first PV plant with all the other regulatory frameworks and the bureaucracy that we have in our country to accomplish and have a PV plant almost connected to the grid. While for February 2022, another milestone was reached, because we decided, and it was approved by the board of directors of the WinCoop, that we are proceeding with the next megawatt, another one PV plant of capacity 1 megawatt in the same region. So we have already bought the land, and we have started all the processes and procedures for environmental studies and other related stuff, so as to begin the construction of the next megawatt in the same region. So what are our plans for 2022-2023? Apart from the 2 first megawatts that I also presented, we're planning 2 more PV plants of 1 megawatt capacity, each one of them. So we hope we will conclude 2023 with 4 megawatts in our portfolio. While electromobility is included in our parts, we have some members that they have gas stations, and we are examining how the process can be so as to connect our members with gas stations, with electromobility. It's a good exercise. We will find a solution very soon. While the important thing is also that we have more than 150 female entrepreneurs that have requested to join the energy cooperative. Of course, everybody is welcome, but we are now considering, and that's why we're lobbying with the government, when we have new members in the energy community, and since our energy cooperative is considered to be of wide participation, all members need to sign again. So we have this barrier. That's why we are opening circles when new members are entering. And just to a final remark is that from the 61st founding members of the energy cooperative, in February 2022, 15 more joined. So the capital was raised. In addition, that means that we have more money to proceed with our plans. And hopefully by the end of 2022, we hope that we have reached and we will overcome the 100 members. That's it from my side. And I hope that our example will be a good inspiration for other female entrepreneurs or other female communities to move forward and open and operate their own energy cooperatives.
Well, thank you so much, Alice. That's extremely impressive, and it's a very good news to see how much you have been doing in such a rather short time, I must say. Maybe one question. I see that we're already running out of time. So first of all, for all participants, this any question that you might have, please feel free to put it in the chat, and we can pick it up before the end of this session. But to Alice, building on what you just said, I would be interested in hearing from you. What did you found to be the most difficult piece in making this all possible? We heard about the underestimation of women. We heard about some difficulties in really seeing women in doing something, in taking action. I was interested in hearing if this was also your case.
No, in our case, there was not a barrier apart from the bureaucracy and the bureaucratic procedures that we had to follow. We are entrepreneurs and we know how to solve problems and to have a good capacity. I mean, all of them at the Greek Association of Female Entrepreneurs. So there was no case, there was not even 0.001 possibility to have this project failed. There was a collective effort. We put a lot of effort, a lot of work and many hours in designing, in working with the proper consultants and engineers and everybody. So this is how we managed in less than 9 months to have an energy community almost under operation. So it's a matter of willingness, and it's a matter of good planning. It's a matter of having good consultants and collaboration with people that they know their domain in a very good way. So yes, there was not other barrier apart from the bureaucratic part, which again, it was not so hard. It was, you know, the normal bureaucratic way that you need to take approvals for various studies, environmental and everything, especially when you have to do with installation or installations of such a capacity of 1 or more megawatts in our country. And in other countries, I assume this is the same.
Yeah, fortunately, this as much as we can observe, it's not a uniqueness from Greece, unfortunately. But so thank you so much for sharing your experience, which I think is great. We have 2 minutes left. I would just ask. I see there is a question coming about to Alice about how the discussions start in your group. This is from Winston.
Yes, I can thank you, Winston, and thank you for the nice words. It started because my domain of expertise, working as a ZEB and being member of the female association of the Association of Male Entrepreneurs, is energy. I'm working with Daniela and the Power Pool project as well for the Greek pilot country. And just to highlight, Daniela, because I checked, the Greek energy supporters and mentors are 50% men, 50% women. We just checked the data. So yes, we have a good representation on that. So since the domain was energy, and since in the association we started some working groups, and I was leading the working group of energy, providing information to the 1,500 members that we have about energy related issues. This is how it started. What we can do. Energy communities are considered to be a hot topic in Greece. We have approximately 1,000 energy communities. I'm not saying that all of them are active, but in comparing the energy communities in 2020, that we have approximately 450, with 2021, that we had almost 1,000, we see an increasing number of energy communities. So this is a model that we wanted to examine. Of course, in our case, because the members are all around Greece, we cannot take advantage of net metering or virtual net metering. It is not allowed to make a virtual net metering if you are living in another region of Greece. That's why we are selling the energy, so our members are getting benefited from the part of the money that they are taking from selling the energy. So again, we consider that this is women empowerment, because as I said, we have members in the energy community and the association from handcrafters, low income, to very high income. So imagine that even with one share, how those women can actually benefit from even selling the energy, and of course how they will benefit in the very near future, because as I said, we are planning a lot of other stuff as part of the energy community. And connecting energy communities and energy poverty, I'm very glad to present that WinCoop is among the organizations that they are hosting an energy poverty alleviation office under the PowerPool project. So apart from the real job doing and producing energy, we are helping also the community where we are established in providing information and in providing assistance to vulnerable people, not members of our community, in terms of mitigating and alleviating energy poverty in their households.
Well, thank you so much. Indeed, a very good example to look at. And so we are running out of time already. We are 1 minute over, so apologies for all the colleagues that are on the line. But I thought it was very interesting and needed to give space to this great example. So we have been looking into data, the few ones that are available, that analyze how women are engaged in the energy transition, in the energy sector. More in general, we have been zooming in a little bit on how this reflects to the situation of energy poverty that it seems to be hitting hard women. And then we started to look into what is the roots of the problem, what can be done to tackle, and we ended with a very nice example of those things really happening on the ground. So thank you so much to all speakers. Before closing, I would just have one word to all of you to say, to tell us what would be an action that can, a concrete action that can really help in filling this gap. I think that the message that the power of network, which Winston mentioned, is a very good one, but I would give the floor, maybe starting from Ioannis, what can be really done in practical terms?
Well, I don't know. I don't believe in one size fits everybody. I think there are many things very different on various levels that should be tried. My worry is, especially for the energy transition, is this is the world where women will have equal participation and meaningful representation in decision-making processes, and is a world that is coming. It's not something that can be stopped. I'm certain that this will happen. I don't know when, but it will happen. The thing with the energy transition and the climate change is that unless this happens fast enough, it won't make a difference in our fight for climate change. So we need to accelerate this process. It's not just an issue of the of the developed world. It's an issue of our planet, to make sure that we engage all the population, meaning women, on an equal foot with men, to change the situation as fast as possible. So I would say engage, highlight. Alice's case is an obvious example where it shows that women not just can, but can lead, and we need female leadership. And this is one of the things we do with W4S, to highlight and showcase these successful cases and convince people and young girls and not so young girls to believe that they can make a difference and be part of the energy transition. Before talking to Mads, because I had a very long discussion with my wife over the weekend about this event. I'll tell you what, I think the first thing all of us can do is change the way we're thinking about our life, our work, and about using energy.
Well,
that's for me.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry that we enter in your weekend, in your family discussion, but yeah, thank you so much. So taking that, sharing good example is key. Martha, what would you be your suggestion to change things, your practical example in one word?
Actually, I really agree on what Yanni already said. So for me, it's easy. So the base of everything, in my opinion, is education. All the level. I don't talk about education for kids, but it's also education for all the other people, for all the age. So the key for me, it's really education, and through this, try to change the culture and break down the stereotypes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Then over to Daniela.
Yes, Sylvia, I think that one of the key messages for me is turning the qualitative understanding of women in energy into quantitative data. I think that we need a little more push on that. I think that from the places that we work, we should drive that a little more.
That's fantastic. Then over to Alice.
Yes, thank you, Sylvia. I couldn't agree more than Marta. Education is the key word in such initiatives. So we need to find, especially for us working in projects funded by European Commission or other ones, to enter small societies and teach them, especially about the use of energy, the production of energy, and make people understand what energy is. For us here at INSEB and for WinCoop, energy is a right. It's the same right as the access to water. So more educated people can be actually more people in the energy transition journey if we want to accomplish the overall goal of 2050, the decarbonized continent, the first decarbonized continent of this world.
Well, thank you so much for mentioning energy literacy in general, which is very much needed. And then lastly, Mona.
Yes, I think many things have already been said, so I'm not going to repeat everything, but I agree totally to what all of you said. I think it's very crucial that we, especially as well as Alice said, as we're working with these projects and we're working with these communities, it's really also important to there set the social goals and educate about the social goals that we have to make it more inclusive and to somehow also interact with the communities that we're working with. What are their barriers to have such diversity rates, to have a certain diversity threshold, to engage women more, and how we can foster that within, for example, our project.
Well, thank you so much for your contribution. Just last words, building up a little bit on what have been said. At the Decide project, we have been launching the call for replicants. So we are looking for new initiatives, either those are running already or planning to be set up soon, to be engaged in a conversation with the project that we already have engaged in the Decide project, so that you can learn more, exchange experience, and possibly have some good hints also with regard to gender inclusion. Many things have been said already regarding what we have been producing. I invite everyone to check out the Knowledge Hub and the resource page on our website to find out more about the study that we have been producing, and the games and the podcast. And I thank you very much, everyone that stayed a little bit longer in the line, for taking the time to follow the discussion and contribute to it. I thank you very much, all the speakers and Marta that have been supporting the event from the technical side. And I hope to see you soon in the next Decide event. Thank you so much, and happy International Women's Day.
Thank you. Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you, Sylvia. Happy day. Ciao.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Thank you.
day. Bye.
Bye.